We mentioned fragmented packets and creating decoys in the previous video. Right now, we're going to mention a few more options, and even though they are not that important, it is good to know they exist, so let's go through them real fast. I will not be running these options, but you can test them out if you want. I will just mention them so you know what else you can use. The first thing we got is option -s. And you run it like this, sudo nmap -s, and this option is used to spoof your IP address. It will make your target think that someone else is scanning them. The problem with this is that you will not get results of scan back, since they will be sent to the IP address that you're trying to impersonate. So for example, you can be trying to impersonate 8.8.8.8, and your target will be scanned with this IP address, or at least it will seem that the scan is coming from this IP address. For this option to work, you must also specify -pn, and the reason why you must specify -pn is, first of all, -pn is used to assume that all hosts are online, so it doesn't perform the ping scan to discover whether a host is up and running. Without the -pn, this option would not work, and the reason is because your target will be scanned with this IP address. And we will not be able to get the packets back and see whether the target is on or off. That's why we will just assume that the target is online, so we can scan them with a different IP address. Otherwise, we will never get the result whether they are online. And sometimes with these two options, you must also run -e. E is used to specify a network interface. So you would simply just type ifconfig, check out what network interface you're using, and you would specify it right here. In my case, that would be ETH0. Another cool option besides this that nmap has is you can specify the source port with -g option. This can sometimes help bypass a firewall. For example, a network administrator may set up a firewall and set a rule where only traffic from a certain port is allowed. And with that, he's probably thinking that attackers won't be able to figure out from which port exactly. And if you perform a scan and send packets from the port that's allowed in the firewall rule, you successfully bypassed firewall. So you would specify it with -g and then random port number. And one last thing that we will mention that could help you in bypassing firewall is changing different scan types. We already covered some scan types, and any of them could be useful to you sometimes. For example, in case you perform a SYN scan on a target machine, and in case the SYN scan is blocked by the target's firewall, which would mean that they drop all SYN requests that try to initiate TCP connection, we could try to perform a fin scan, and fin scan is labeled like this, -sf. Now, you're probably confused because there are a lot of scans that we can do. And in case you don't have any networking background, you're probably wondering what fin scan even means. Well, fin scan is just sending a fin packet without any other flags. And these SYN flags and fin flags can be confusing sometimes, but with practice you will catch everything up. Just one advice I have is that every time you don't fully understand something, just Google it. That is how I learned as well. And all of these options that we covered can be combined with something called timing template. And to show you what timing template really is, I opened up my nmap manual right here, and I scrolled to this option right here, which says -t timing template. And if you also open up nmap manual, this will be all the way down. So there are about 1 or 2 minutes of scrolling until you reach this option. Here in the nmap manual, we can see that -t comes with 6 different options or 6 different modes. And what's interesting for us regarding security evasion are the first 2 modes, which are 0 and 1, also called paranoid and sneaky. These 2 are used for IDS evasion, as it says right here. Now, the problem with T0 and T1, or the first 2 options, is since they are trying to avoid IDS alerts, they will take a lot longer to finish. So once you're scanning more machines or more networks, this might not be the most reasonable approach to take, since this scan will take a lot of time with specifying -D0 or -D1. And all of this, including the options that we covered in the last video, will help you in security evasion and spoofing. What I would advise you to do is also read about other options as well that we didn't cover, just to see what else can you do. In the next video, big things are happening. We're going to create our first tool used for penetration testing. Let's do it.